Hi, Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. This video will help to explain domain Eukarya for kingdom Animalia. So the learning outcomes is for student to be able to describe unique characteristics of kingdom Animalia and state classification of Animalia into 9 phyla. Then discover the unique characteristics of the following phyla, which will have 9 phyla under kingdom Animalia. And then explain evolutionary relationships of Animalia based on their level of organization, germ layers, body symmetry, body phylum, and segmentation. All those organisms that fall under kingdom Animalia are all eukaryotes, multicellular eukaryotes. Okay, multicellular eukaryotes. All animals under kingdom Animalia are ingestive heterotroph. So, organisms under kingdom Animalia cannot produce their own food, and they have to ingest the food in order for the food to be digested in the body. The carbohydrate reserves are in the form of glycogen. Animals lack of cell walls. Most animals reproduce sexually with dominant diploid stage. Usually involve small flagellated sperm that fertilize a large non-motile egg. Most animals have nervous and muscle system. Most are capable of locomotion, meaning that they can move, or motile. Some animals are sessile. Sessile is the versus of motile, the contra, meaning unable to move, right? Cannot move. So they will be stuck on the same place. Animals undergo development of transport system, which includes blood carrying oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and excretory materials is pumped throughout the body in vessels. The 9 phyla under kingdom Animalia are phylum Porifera, phylum Cnidaria, or also known as Coelenterata, phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Nematoda, phylum Mollusca, phylum Annelida, phylum Arthropoda, phylum Echinodermata, and the last one is phylum Chordata. By looking at this diagram, it shows the classification, the characteristics that divide all those animals or organisms under kingdom Animalia into 9 different phyla. The characteristics are based on the level of cells organization. And this one, and then the second one is the body symmetry. And then the body cavity. And germ layers. So, classification of kingdom Animalia into 9 phyla are based on their types of tissues, the cell organization, whether the animals have true tissues or they don't have true tissues. So those animals without true tissue or no true tissues are called parazoa. Having no tissues mean parazoa, or parazoa means having no tissues. For example, sponges. We will look at the diagram later on. What does a sponge look like? Sponges such like SpongeBob SquarePants that lives in the ocean. That character is actually a living living organism that falls under kingdom Animalia. If the animals have true tissues, it is called, this condition of having true tissues is called eumetazoa. The animals are eumetazoa. All other animals have different tissues which perform different functions. No tissues meaning they are multicellular, but the cells are not specified or specialized into different kind of tissues. So they perform the same function for each cell. These are an example of parazoa, the sponges. So, a very simple structure of a sponge, which water get into the body through pores, porous cells or porous tissues, and then the water flow in the organism and out of the body through an opening called osculum. So we are going to learn more about this type of cell later. Based on the classification also based on body symmetry. For example, symmetry, first whether that animals have symmetry or do not have symmetry. For example, sponge. Sponges lack body symmetry, meaning their shape are not symmetry. They have an irregular shape. Some animals exhibit radial symmetry. Radial symmetry meaning has top and bottom region, no anterior end and posterior end, no left and right side. Radial, so if we cut it from every angle or every part, it will result in the same amount of size. Okay. Some animals exhibit bilateral symmetry. So it has top and bottom region, has anterior end and posterior end, and also has left and right side. So bilateral, if we can only cut it into half from one side only. If we cut it like this horizontally, horizontally, we cannot get the same size. We can only cut it vertically, so we get the same size here. Similar with the left side and the right side are similar. So this is the diagram that shows the type of body symmetry. So the first the cells are identified whether it has symmetry or do not have symmetry. Another characteristic that is used to divide animals into different phyla are germ layers. There are two types of animals with two different types of germ layers. The first one is diploblastic. Mind you, the word di means two, so it means it has two germ layers, the ectoderm and the endoderm. Can you identify the derm that is missing here? We have endo, and another one type of derm which is missing here is the mesoderm. So the animals that falls under diploblastic animals has only ectoderm and endoderm, but no mesoderm. For example, the diagram shows this is the ectoderm and this is the endoderm. This is the mesoglia, which is not considered as the mesoderm, and this is the body lumen. Body lumen is the hollow part of the body, the hollow part in the body. which usually contain the internal organ. Mesoglia is a gelatinous non-cellular layer. That's why it is not considered as germ layers. Usually located between endoderm and ectoderm. It will not form any tissues or organ. While another group of animals have 3 germ layers, which consist of ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Okay, there are 3 germ layers. That's why it is called triploblastic. So, this is the explanation. What is ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm? So, ectoderm is the outermost layer, yang paling luar, that usually covers the surface of embryo and usually give rise to outer coverings and central nervous system. Contoh ectoderm, kalau dekat manusia, dia jadi kulit. Endoderm is the innermost layer, yang paling dalam, usually lines the developing digestive tract and archenteron. It will give rise to lining of digestive tracts and organs. Dia jadi lapisan luar kepada organ-organ yang dalam. While mesoderm lies between ectoderm and endoderm. It will develop into muscles and other organs between the digestive tracts. Archenteron is a cavity within an animal embryo during the gastrula stage. Archenteron ni kita dah belajar dulu dalam, kita dah pernah jumpa dalam human reproduction and development dalam semester 1. Cuma kita tak discuss secara terperinci apa di archenteron ni. All part of archenteron cavity will form gut that will later on develop into either mouth and anus or anal opening. Sebab ada haiwan yang ada mouth tapi tidak ada anal opening, ada yang ada dua-dua. Xylem is also known as body cavity, another characteristic that can classify different animals into different phyla. There are 3 types of body cavity. First, acoelomate. A means no. So, no xylem. No xylem means they don't have body cavity. Tidak ada body cavity, tidak ada hollow part. So, they are all very packed. And also pseudocoelomate. Pseudo means false. So, pseudocoelomate is looks like xylem, looks like a body cavity, but it is actually not a body cavity. Because why? The xylem, the body cavity, is not completely lined by mesoderm. We will refer to the diagram later. And then the third body cavity is the coelomate, meaning the xylem is a perfect, completely lined by mesoderm. So, xylem, the body cavity, for example, acoelomate such as planarian. Planarian ni falls under PLATYHELMINTHES. It is the type of cacing pipih, sejenis cacing pipih. Lack body cavity between digestive tract and outer body wall. So, they are very packed. So, no body cavity. Terus kepada digestive tract. Pseudocoelomate such as roundworms. Roundworms ni contohnya cacing gelang. Cacing gelang. Have xylem, which the xylem is not completely lined by mesoderm. So, for example, the yellow here, the yellow part here is the xylem. Xylem should be surrounded both here, part here, here it should be lined by mesoderm to be a real or true xylem. Okay, if I draw a mesoderm here, then the yellow part here will be considered as a true xylem. But in pseudocoelom, because the body cavity, the yellow part here, is only lined by half. The mesoderm only line in the inner part. The outer part here does not line the body cavity, so it is considered as pseudocoelom. So pseudocoelom ni appear or can be found in roundworms that falls under phylum Nematoda. Okay, those animals, the rest of the phylum, maknanya yang bukan Platyhelminthes, bukan Nematoda dan bukan sponge Porifera tadi, dan juga satu lagi Coelenterata. Selain daripada Coelenterata, Porifera, Nematoda dan Platyhelminthes, all of other phyla not mentioned just now has coelom. They has true coelom. For example, earthworm. Earthworm ni cacing tanah kan? So cacing tanah dengan cacing kerawit atau cacing gelang ke ataupun cacing yang banyak dalam perut kita tu, itu adalah dua cacing yang berbeza. Even though they are both called as cacing, but they are classified into two different phyla because of the coelom or the body cavity is different. So the body cavity in earthworm, in Annelida, earthworm falls under phylum Annelida. The body cavity in annelids are completely lined by mesoderm. So look at the yellow structure here, the body cavity here. All of the parts, even bahagian dalam, bahagian luar ni semua adalah mesoderm. Sebab tu it is called true coelom because it is completely lined by mesoderm. This is a diagram that shows a porifera in the ocean. Okay. Porifera has no symmetry. Kalau kita potong dua ni, dia lain dengan sebelah sini. Potong ni pun lain. Sama kita potong dia tak dapat bahagian yang sama. Unique characteristics of Porifera. The first phylum, the most primitive animals under kingdom Animalia. Porifers mean pore bearing. So sponge bodies are perforated by tiny holes. Example, Leucosolenia species, or commonly known as sponge. Most porifera are marine. Some also can live in fresh water. They do not have true tissue, so they are termed as parazoa. They only consist of differentiated cells. Porifera are sessile, so they are anchored on a stratum. Maksudnya dia tak bergerak, jadi dia akan melekat pada satu permukaan. They lack of nerves or muscles. Their body are asymmetry. Most are hermaphrodites, meaning they have individual function as both male and female in sexual reproduction by producing sperm and eggs. So they can switch from being male and female. They reproduce asexually and sexually. Asexual by means of from fragmentation and regeneration. The body wall of Porifera consists of porocytes that form pores. Ostia is the term used to name the pores. Porifera are suspension feeder, maknanya dia makan benda-benda yang terampai, suspended matters. They capture food particles suspended in the water that passes through their body. So water get into the body through pores. The water brings suspended materials, and then they capture They filter, and then the particles will be eaten by the cell. There are two layers of the body sponge. Two layers of cells separated with mesohyl region. Okay, ni satu layer, dua layer, satu, ni dua, and this is the mesohyl region. There are two types of cells, the choanocytes, also known as collar cells sebab dia ada collar ni. Choanocyte line the spongiocell. Okay. Each with a flagellum that ring by a collar. The flagella generate water current, so air tu dia akan ada arus untuk air bergerak. Create the water flow of water in throughout the pores and out through the osculum. So kalau air masuk, dia tak masuk patah balik, so dia akan lalu osculum. While the collar will trap food particles and digest it or transfer to amebocyte. Okay. This is the amebocyte, this is the choanocyte. Okay. Amebocyte can be found in the mesohyl region. It will absorb food from water and choanocytes and then digest the food and transport nutrients to other cells by phagocytosis. That's why it is named as amebocyte. Ingat tak amoeba ni dia punya dia ada pseudopodium sama Jadi dia amebocyte, it has irregular shape. So this amebocyte secrete calcium carbonate to form sharp spicules. Form sharp spicules. Spicule ni jadi macam duri-duri lah, dia tajam, jadi keras. That's why sponges are hard. Collagen also secrete collagen protein to form spongin. The unique characteristic of Porifera, it has water system that drawn through the porocyte. Here the porocyte to the spongiocell. This is the spongiocell, spongiocell, which is the central cavity. Then water flows out through the larger opening called osculum. Okay, the second phylum we are going to discuss in this video is phylum Cnidaria. Okay, the C is silent, Cnidaria or Coelenterata, another name. Cnidaria are considered as eumetazoa because they have true tissues. They are solitary or in form of colonies. Solitary ni maksudnya tak bergerak. Most are marine, some also freshwater. The example of marine Cnidaria is Obelia species, while the freshwater is the Hydra species. They can be sessile or motile. Boleh ada yang bergerak, ada yang tak bergerak. Solitary ni maksudnya dia tak ada berubah apa-apa lah, dia duduk seorang-seorang. Solitary means they are individual. Terasing. Their body plan is diploblastic with radial symmetry. Jadi diploblastic Animalia yang diploblastic adalah Cnidaria sahaja. Jadi kalau cerita tentang unique characteristics of Cnidaria, terus kaitkan dengan body plan dia diploblastic. Germ layers Germ layers, basic body plan, germ layers dia adalah diploblastic and radial symmetry. Cnidaria has central digestive compartment that includes gastrovascular cavity. Maknanya dia dah ada sistem digestif, pencernaan. That's why they have this, but dia punya digestive system dia ada single opening saja. Maknanya bukaan dia tu itulah mulut dan itulah anus. Okay, the mouth are surrounded by tentacles. Jadi ini kat sini mouth. So this is the tentacles. Correct? Nampak macam apa? Obor-obor. They have two body shape. Polyp and medusa. Polyp is a cylindrical form, macam ni. While medusa is bell shape. Okay, bell shape. Polyp in the cylindrical form, so they are usually sessile because they are attached to a rock. Okay. While medusa are motile, they can swim. They have the tentacles and they are motile, so they are not attached to any surface. So because polyp are cylindrical, so their mouth is here and their tentacles are facing upwards. While for medusa, the bell shape, the mouth is facing downward and the tentacles facing downward. Polyp has thin mesoglia while medusa have thick mesoglia. And the polyp has big gastrovascular cavity while for medusa it has small gastro cavity. Okay. Make sure that you can identify this is a polyp structure while this is a medusa structure. Medusa can swim, polyp cannot swim. Medusa motile, polyp immotile. Cnidaria has no brain, no nervous system. No brain with nervous system. The nerve net is associated with simple sensory receptors that are distributed radially around the body to detect and respond to stimuli equally from all direction. Sebab tu bila nak obor-obor dia kesan ada haiwan dekat berdekatan, dia boleh kesan dia boleh kesan kehadiran organisma lain. Cnidaria are carnivores. Kata kita tengok polip ni, walaupun dia attach dekat batu, they are actually carnivores. Carnivores mean they eat other organism. They have tentacles for defense and feeding. Ni, tentacle ni untuk defense and feeding. Ingat tak Cnidaria? Kalau tadi sponge tu dia lebih pada terumbu karang, dia tak ada tentacles. But Cnidaria dia ada tentacles. Kalau tengok cerita Finding Nemo, Nemo clownfish tu, Nemo tu dia duduk dekat Cnidaria sebenarnya. Dia bersimbion, symbiont form a symbiont relationship. The clownfish and the Cnidaria form a symbiont relationship. So the Cnidaria has nidocyte on the tentacles ni. Tentacles ini ada nidocyte. Jadi nidocyte is a cells that contain cnidae called nematocysts. Okay. Sebenarnya nidocyte ni adalah tentacles yang ada stinging structure, iaitu menyengat. Stinging. Jadi sometimes kalau awak tengok, kalau obor-obor kalau kena tentacle dia, orang kata kena sengat kan. Sama juga dengan kalau clownfish tu, kalau ikan yang lain dia tak biasa kena sengatan dia tu, dia akan macam kena sengat lah, dia akan rasa sakit lah dan melumpuhkan ikan. Itu adalah dia punya mekanisme sama ada pertahanan dan juga untuk makan. The nematocyst contains stinging thread that can penetrate the body wall of the cnidarian's prey. If you watch a documentary, I've come across a documentary that shows when the night comes, the Cnidaria, the tentacles can elongate a few kilometers to find their prey. Sometimes they can find the carcass of a whale, ikan paus tu, and then they will eat on the whale. Ataupun ikan paus yang dah sakit, dah tua, yang dah tak boleh bergerak jauh, bergerak laju, they will become the prey to the Cnidaria. Okay. Cnidaria, because it has two types of body, the polyp and the medusa, this phenomenon are termed as dimorphism. Okay, di means two, morph means shape. So it has two shapes of body, the existence of two different forms of individual within the same animal species, the polyp form and the medusa form. So this is why in their life cycle ataupun dalam hidup dia ada kewujudan medusa form and polyp form. So this is the medusa form of an Obelia, and this is the polyp form of an Obelia. This is for feeding. This is for this one is for reproduction. This one for feeding sebab dia ada tentacles. So yang this one for reproduction, this polyp, reproduction polyp, it will detach from the body parts and then it will grow into a medusa. Obelia species exist in colonies. They have both polyp and medusa forms. There are two types of polyps, reproductive polyp that lack of tentacles. Okay, ni pun reproductive sama. Feeding polyp has tentacles. The polyp reproduce asexually by budding. Okay, the reproduce detach, budding, and then produce medusa. The budding will form medusa, and the medusa will release sperm and egg. Okay, I will continue to the next phylum in the next video. Thank you.